And we're live. Hello, folks out there in YouTube land. How you all doing? My name's Dr. Sloan. Thank you very much for joining me. We're just waiting for 10 o'clock to say hello to everybody, as usual. Popping on a little bit early just to make sure everything's working okay, because sometimes it doesn't. Let me just turn that way. Sorry, move my camera over a wee bit. There we go. How's that? That's not too bad. Yes, indeed. Yeah, right. Yeah. Tonight we're going to be getting on with a very, very short chapter. We've had a bit of a week here. I was hoping to run with a couple of chapters and some other stuff, but tonight what we'll do, I didn't want to really slow down with this. So we're actually going to do another chapter tomorrow night. Plus some extra stuff that I've found to get read. We're going to read the hero stuff tomorrow night, folks, hopefully. I might have a wee nosy at some of it tonight, perhaps. But what we've got is a very short chapter tonight. There's 10 o'clock, so I will just say hello. Hello, everyone. Thanks very much for joining me. I'm Dr. Sloan. Welcome to the Doghouse, my science fiction station. Tonight's going to be chapter 56 of Children of Dune for our book club. There's Bojack Harkness saying hi all. Hi, Bojack. How are you? Thanks very much for joining us. Pardon me. Yeah, we're all over the place here this week. It's been a week. And yeah, I haven't been too well as well, actually. So had a bit of a funny tummy. And I've managed to split my lip as well. And interestingly enough, I don't know if you noticed, I put up a wee thing on the website there. Just some days you can't get rid of a bomb. As our car has been caught up in a bomb alert for over 2 days, which we finally got back. Not damaged, fortunately, but there were controlled explosions and stuff. And that's kind of, we've only just had the back of our car blown off a couple of weeks ago. We had quite a bizarre incident with a tire, which we had to get, just took off the whole back of the car, basically. So it's been a bit of a week, as these things go. What we were hoping to do tonight is to have 2 very short chapters. Just because of all that, I've also had a bit of a funny tummy this week. A little bit of a food poisoning, sort of 24-hour bug. So tonight, what we're going to do tonight, Thursday night, is we're going to run with this chapter quickly tonight. Pardon me. And then we're going to be back again tomorrow night. Because I've just got this sense of impetus about where we're at with the book, a sense of acceleration. And I want to keep it going, especially with these little short chapters. Just because I have the time this week, actually, so we're going to do another chapter tomorrow night, folks. Probably pop in a bit earlier to get it done, and we're going to get that because it's a short chapter. We're going to do our reading from the hero tomorrow night as well. I've also got a few other little bits and pieces for you to read. I've found a few bits and pieces in relation to Frank Herbert. A couple of things that you might find interesting, and I'm doing a wee bit of scribbling on the man at the minute myself, so there we go. So it shouldn't take us too long to do this one tonight, but as I said, hopefully, in fact, I'm pretty sure of it, actually, because I've got the house to myself this weekend. We'll be back tomorrow night with another chapter. We're going to keep pushing on. And as I said, it will be another short chapter tomorrow, only 4 pages. This one's only really 3. So hopefully that'll just keep us pushing on towards the end of the book, because we're so close. Yeah, next one's 4 pages, and then we've got another one after that's not too big, 5.5, and then we do have a few chunky ones towards the end of the book. I think the last 2 chapters in particular. No, was it the penultimate? Not chapter 62. I think is quite lengthy, and chapter 64 is reasonably lengthy as well. Pardon me. Excuse me. Anyway. There's Carlos Crescelia saying, "Evening, gents," and Bojack Harkness saying, "Sorry to hear that, man. That's tough." It's just one of those things. I don't think my understanding, Bojack, is we don't think it was terrorist related. It's been kind of a little bit in the press, and then it's gone very, very quiet. But yeah, it was unfortunately, it really sort of more affected my wife. It was her that had parked the car up there. She basically had to get a train home. We're about 70 miles from Belfast, so her trip to work basically made her do 280 miles, pretty much all in all, before she got her car back. But fortunately, our car was slightly around the corner, so it wasn't damaged in the controlled explosions, which they did. Though I think they damaged a fair bit of the property there. Is an odd little thing. Interestingly enough, I think I was saying, what on earth are they called? Let me see. ATO, is that what they're calling them now? Ammunition technical officers or something like that. I'm not too sure. Just the bomb squad look a wee bit different these days since the last time I've seen them. In Northern Ireland used to be the Army bomb squad. They were called the Bobcats. They kind of have a kind of cartoon cat. Just have a kind of like a cartoon cat with a army hat on the side of the back. the regimental logo or something. That's didn't really affect us too much. Bojack put an awful lot of people out of their homes for a couple of days. But yeah, my understanding was I think allegedly it might be a mental health sort of thing. I don't know. But yeah, so bombs and bullets and stuff like that. But that's just Belfast, But yeah, it kind of put us out for 2 whole days, pretty much. And I think I was going to normally get your normally they move a bit quicker than that. I think. But there you go. But no, it's okay. No harm done. Nobody's hurt or dead, which is good. Julian Thompson saying good afternoon, Doc. Hi to everybody from Manhattan. Hello, Julian. How you doing? Are you in Manhattan? Very nice. You on holiday, Julian? Pardon me. Can't say never a dull moment. Yeah, that's the case here. Souppot saying hi, guys. Hi, Souppot. How you doing? And there's Cynthia saying hi, Doc, and hi all. Hi, Cynthia. How's it going? I hope you're all well, folks. Anyway, yeah, I'm good. I'm reasonably good. I've got the girls. Hopefully they'll not. I'm just keeping an eye on them myself tonight. Here, I've had them out for a wee dander before we started tonight. But let me just get our books organized, folks. But yeah, a couple of punchy little short chapters. So just in terms of things like that, it'll probably be a wee quick one tonight, folks. But we'll definitely be back on tomorrow night with another chapter, which I think will be good. And my throat's a wee bit, so I think that'll help me manage it a wee bit. And I still have a few wee things that we've got lined up for tomorrow to read to you as well. So let me just get this page open. I think I've got a little textual mistake in here somewhere. Goodness, didn't we have quite a howler the last time with a big sort of section of paragraph repeated? I'll point it out to you whenever we get there. Pardon me, I haven't had time to check it in another edition, but it's a punctuation mistake. And it changes meaning, if you see what I mean. So I'll maybe check with you guys whenever we get to it. I've got quite sort of opportunity to do a few wee doodles with this chapter as well, trying to sort of get what we're talking about with our, pardon me, with what Gurney sees. Let's see. Right, here we go. Always disorganized. Never too bothered about it. Here we go. Let me just put that here. So just to get started, we have epigraph number 56 here. Here we go. After the Fremen, all planetologists see life as expressions of energy and look for the overriding relationships. There's that throat problem kicking in. Precious fluids, folks. Keep them up. Right. In small pieces, bits and parcels which grow into general understandings, the Fremen racial wisdom is translated into a new certainty. The thing Fremen have as a people, any people can have. They need but develop a sense for energy relationships. They need but observe that energy soaks up the patterns of things and builds with those patterns. Pardon me. Now, I thought first of all, pardon me. Sorry, my throat is away with it tonight. Bear with me, folks. Okay, well, hang on. Let me just do that. See if that bit of clearing my throat might help there. It's my throat's very tickly. Oh, you know when your words come out, they just start to go down like that. So, first of all, after the Fremen, all planetologists see life as expressions of energy and look for overriding relationships. Now, for anybody, really, just most of Frank's ideas in terms of energy systems and stuff like that we've pointed out come from this. Where There is Life, an Introduction to Ecology. Now, within this book, there is an entire chapter on this. Here we go. This is the system of energy. I've actually got a few folds and stuff within this chapter. So it's we'll just treat it as with what we have with Frank here, but just to let you know, if anybody wants to get me sort of read about this, it's a very good wee book. I wouldn't mind reading it again myself. Mine's falling to bits, which is why I'm being very delicate with it. I'm just sort of pointing it pointing it out to you rather than digging through it. So chapter 8 within Where There Is Life by Paul Bigelow's series is entitled The System of Energy. Pardon me. Oh, let me see. I really need to get some more tape on this. This is not good. But yeah, it's an interesting book on ecology, an introduction to ecology from the 60s. Very much looking at it as a new science in many ways, like this, like the planetologists do here. The first thing I wanted to say was after the Fremen, pardon me, that sounds kind of ominous for the Fremen, doesn't it? Like after the Fremen, post Fremen, if you see what I mean. And I think there is perhaps a little bit of foreshadowing in this chapter in relation to things like that. So all planetologists see life as expressions of energy and look for overriding relationships. In small pieces, bits and parcels which grow into general understanding, the Fremen racial wisdom is translated into a new certainty. The thing Fremen have as a people, any people can have. Within this chapter, the thing that the Fremen have, Gurney has it here. I think that's very much what this is relating to, and we're going to observe Tuek's Sietch, and I suppose the result of Leto II's kind of guerrilla warfare campaign, if you like, his sabotage of the ecological plans in action. And we're going to see a bit of a result of that, I think, but we're going to see it through Gurney's eyes here in this chapter. This certainty that the Fremen have, any people can have it, and I think he's got it here. They develop a sense for energy relationships, but observe that energy soaks up the patterns of things and builds with those patterns. Okie dokie. So, right, we start off with, that's from the Arrakis catastrophe, by the way. Pardon me. After Hark al-Ada, our main historian again here within the book. I'm always intrigued by the after part. that makes me think a wee bit. And again, the word catastrophe here as a sudden downturn of events. I like the word catastrophe. So it was, here we are, here's our location. It was Tuek's Sietch on the inner lip of False Wall. Halleck stood in the shadow of the rock buttress which shielded the high entrance to the Sietch, waiting for those inside to decide whether they would shelter him. Okay. Let's see. He turned his gaze outward to the northern desert and then upward to the grey-blue morning sky. The smugglers here had been astonished to learn that he, an off-worlder, had captured a worm and ridden it. But Halleck had been equally astonished at their reaction. The thing was simple for an agile man who'd seen it done many times. Halleck returned his attention to the desert, the silver desert of shining rocks and grey-green fields where water had worked its magic. Oh, let me just check that there. So that's my phone going off somewhere. Someone's ringing me. Way down the other side of the house. Let's see, where water had worked its magic. Yes, indeed. I just grab a pen there. That's my fault. Missed out a letter there. So, yeah, and again, just in relation to our epigraph, any people, the thing that the Fremen have as a people, any people can have. Part of that is capturing a worm and riding it. And again, Halleck's done that here. He the I suppose the smugglers here are kind of surprised that as an off-worlder he's been able to do that. He doesn't think it's that big a deal. He's as long as you're agile and you've seen it done many times, you would figure it out. So it's yeah. He's puzzled by their reaction. They haven't learned in that sense from the desert. Halleck would turn his attention to the desert, the silver desert of shining rocks and grey-green fields where water had worked its magic. That's an interesting word there, isn't it? All of this struck him suddenly as an enormously fragile containment of energy, of life, everything threatened by an abrupt shift in the pattern of change. And again, relating to our epigraph, energy soaks up the patterns of things and builds with those patterns. Patterns is what it's about here. Pardon me. Fragile. He knew the source of this reaction. Okay, so what's making him react this way? It was the bustling scene on the desert floor below him. Containers of dead sand trout were being trundled into the Sietch for distillation and recovery of their water. There were thousands of the creatures. They had come to an outpouring of water, and it was this outpouring which had set Halleck's mind racing. So Halleck stared downward across the Sietch fields and the qanat boundary, which no longer flowed with precious water. He had seen the holes in the qanat stone walls, the rending of the rock liner which had spilled water into the sand. What had made these holes? Some stretched along 20 meters of the qanat's most vulnerable sections in places where soft sand led outward into water-absorbing depressions. It was those depressions which had swarmed with sand trout. The children of the Sietch were killing them and capturing them. I made a right old mess in my notes, so I ended up writing out a whole bit of a section. So I've put a little kind of, before I made my mess, I put a little kind of wormy skull, which just says thousands of sandworms. Pardon me. This is the result of the holes in the qanats. This is the result of sabotage. I'll quickly read the next wee bit to go with it. Repair teams worked on the shattered walls of the qanat. Others carried minims of irrigation water. Sorry, I'll read that again. Others carried minims of irrigation water to the most needy plants. The water source in the gigantic cistern beneath Tuek's wind trap had been closed off, preventing the flow into the shattered qanat. The sun-powered pumps had been disconnected. The irrigation water came from dwindling pools at the bottom of the qanat and laboriously from the cistern within the Sietch. So we've got a little bit of a mention of solar power there. We've got a water crisis by the looks of it on the Sietch's hands. I kind of did a wee sort of illustration, just kind of like an odd sort of little doodle of what was being described. Let me see, can I bring, where are we? There we go, if that's any better. Kind of put that leader was responsible, kind of holes in the qanat, just to give me a wee sort of sense. And stacking of these worms, which seems quite bizarre, doesn't it? Mainly because I think it's particularly when the Fremen are involved with the sand trout and retrieving, you know, the wild, what do we call it, the water of life and that kind of thing. It's usually from one. Well, there's thousands of these things being killed at once. The water being spilled, and the children. I think that's like the children killing them and capturing them to retrieve their water. And I'm wondering, one of the things that I was wondering about just before we go on was that the water that they're retrieving here from these sand trout, if you like, Hmm. Is it the water of life? Which comes from the bile of the worms whenever they drown them. Are they retrieving their water? Are they retrieving the water of life? Was kind of what I was wondering here. But it seems like, yeah, literally thousands of these things. And we have a bit of a problem for the Sietch as well in terms of water, the damage that's been done to their qanat. And we're going to see a wee bit why it's worrying as well, because I suppose we get the sense that the water, we're also told that others carried minimums of irrigation water to the most needy plants. So we're going to hear a wee bit about other types of plants here. The metal frame of the door seal behind Halleck crackled in the growing warmth of the day. As though the sound moved his eyes, Halleck found his gaze drawn to the farthest curve of the qanat, to the place where water had reached most impudently into the desert. It's a very interesting adverb there, isn't it? Impudently. It's a great word. The garden hopeful planners of the Sietch had planted a special tree. Sorry, I'll read that again. The garden hopeful planners of the Sietch had planted a special tree there, and it was doomed unless the water flow could be restored soon. Halleck stared at the silly, trailing plumage of a willow tree. Sorry, I'll read that again as well. I'm not doing well here. Halleck stared at the silly, trailing plumage of a willow tree there, shredded by sand and wind. For him, that tree symbolized the new reality for himself and for Arrakis. And we get his thoughts here. Both of us are alien here. Sorry, just do a quick bit of colouring in there. There we go. Yes, indeed. So it's a willow tree, which I think is kind of interesting. Saying that, I was reading a wee bit about willow trees. Not exactly what I thought. I thought they were a particular type of kind that you can find them in most places, can't you? Willow trees, also known as sallows or osiers, grow in cold and temperate regions. Apparently, over 350 species of the genus known as Salix come from the Latin word salix, which means a willow. Other people for etymology have suggested salmus, which is a Celtic word for near water. I've written down sea wiki here. Hang on, and I also point that we've got Old Man Willow in the Lord of the Rings as a bit of a villainous. What is he? What would he be? Like an ant, isn't he? Or what's the other type of trees called? Maybe he's a horn. Is that it or something? Willow. Hang on. Bear with me. Willow tree. Let's see. Willow. Sea wiki. Pardon me. Aren't they lovely? I think willow trees are really nice. Let's see. History of use in folklore. There's some stuff there mentioned in ancient texts from Assyria, Sumer, and Egypt, and in ancient Greece. The physician Hippocrates wrote about its properties as a folk medicine in the 5th century BC. It's the leaves and bark of the willow tree. Let's see. What was I looking for? Willow trees. Culture. There we go. Willow is one of 4 species associated with the Jewish festival of Sukkot, or the Feast of Tabernacles, cited in Leviticus 23:40. Willow branches are used during the synagogue service of Hoshana Rabbah, the 7th day of Sukkot. In Buddhism, this is a citation needed. Well, hang on. The willow branch is one of the chief attributes of Guan Yin, the bodhisattva of compassion. Guan Yin from Journey to the West. What have we got? Orthodox churches often use willow branches in place of palms in the ceremonies on Palm Sunday. China, some people carry willow branches with them on the day of their tomb sweeping. That's interesting. What else we got? In Japan, Oh, I just saying, Korean courtesan named Hongrang, who lived in the middle of the Joseon dynasty, wrote the poem By the Willow in the Rain in the Evening, which she gave to her parting lover, Choi Gyeong Chang. Hongrang wrote, I will be the willow on your birdside. On your bedside. Sorry, I said birdside there. I will be the willow on your bedside. In Japanese tradition, the willow is associated with ghosts. It's popularly supposed that a ghost will appear where a willow grows. Willow trees are also quite prevalent in folklore and myths. In English folklore, a tree is believed to be quite sinister, capable of uprooting itself and stalking travelers. What else have we got there? A few other things between Hans Christian Andersen's story Under the Willow Tree, etc. But yeah, well, I thought that was interesting there. There's the word, if you look at the very bottom there, you can see the Ogham letter, sail, means willow, which I've been meaning to look into this. It's well, what we're talking about tree alphabets there. I've discovered my name pretty much Rus or Russ, red is an Ogham letter. There you go. So there are some associations, mythological associations with willow trees. Um, but in this one, yeah, I think this is a tree that would be thirsty, I think, on this planet. And it doesn't belong here. It's the new reality for himself and for Arrakis. They're alien here. And I wonder what that means to Gurney here, really. Is he feeling perhaps it's time to leave, perhaps? Hmm. Both of us are alien here, as his thoughts. They were taking a long time over their decision within the Sietch, but they could use good fighting men. Smugglers always needed good men. Halleck had no illusions about them, though. The smugglers of this age were not the smugglers who sheltered him so many years ago when he fled. Oh, I like this. The dissolution of his duke's fief. No, these were a new breed, quick to seek profit. Hmm. Julianson, isn't energy a form of a pattern and vice versa? Why this separation? Patterns of things. And build with those patterns. I kind of thought he was going with platonic forms here. Since for energy relationships, they need but observe that energy soaks up the patterns of things and builds with those patterns. Isn't energy a form of pattern? And vice versa. Um, Goodness, I suppose it's all like how things are made up of your different, universal, what is it we call our elements and things like that, isn't it? X amount of one thing gives you lead, X amount of another gives you, carbon, X amount of this gives you, silicon. But yeah, I think Frank's keeping it vague here. It's not saying too much. Um, Sense for energy relationships. Need but observe that energy soaks up the patterns of things and builds with those patterns. Yeah, energy for I think energy has its own patterns, I suppose. It's the word things is there. It's Julian. It's something that I don't know. As a writer, I think the word thing is kind of dodgy. You need to use it now and then, But it's my son used to have a thing that he would say, but it was he said saying a thing, but it was my son would go, should we go do that thing, with the stuff, with the plate. And he could actually sort of say something without having said a single, giving you any information at all. Things and stuff, whatchamacallits and thingamabobs. Mm. Energy, a form of pattern, and vice versa. Sense for energy relationships. Need but observe that energy soaks up the patterns of things and builds with those patterns. Yeah, it's Again, call me. Get me a physicist, right? Get someone to talk about this stuff properly. But it's vague. I think he's just talking about the things that the natural movement of living things, isn't it? All things. Whether it's in the wind and the rain or this kind of thing. I keep saying the word thing there. But it's sufficiently vague, I think, to leave you scratching your head a bit. But that's the way I take it. That if I was saying it to you, I would say you've got to notice the relationships between all living things and the energy that they have and how they move and interact and feed and grow and live and die and all of it. The different systems that run. The water systems that the water table, water cycle. Sorry, the winds, all of it. The system. Yeah, I think we do have a comment coming up about systems at some point here, which I have to remember. Sorry, bear with me. Hello? Holy shit. Sorry. I'm supposed to be alone tonight. Someone's just come in the house. I was just about to grab weapons. You alright, love? Sorry. It's okay, it's me way. Phew. Excuse me a wee second, folks. I'll be right back. I got scared. Sorry, I'm a bit jumpy when I'm not expecting people coming in the house. Pardon me, that's groovy. The missus is home. That's nice to see her. Right. Sorry, I had to run down there with the tobacco. I was just kind of thinking, what have I got around here? I would probably have to start attacking someone with a guitar, probably. But yes, indeed. No, I wasn't expecting my wife home for 2 days, actually. As I was saying to you earlier. Right. Anyway, that's okay. But good old girls there barking. I think Hollywood would sort them out anyway. But Bojack saying that was funny. Carlos saying, just thinking the same thing. No, it was genuinely, I think I heard the phone. She's not meant to be back tonight, but things have changed. So she was trying to let me know. But that's why that was what the phone ringing earlier was. Dear, oh dear. But it's a good scare, isn't it? It's always nice to see the wife home. Let me see. A pattern suggests an observation, the presence of consciousness. Sorry, this is Cynthia. A pattern suggests an observation, the presence of consciousness to notice the relationships. I'm reminded of earlier discussions regarding whether prescient individuals need patterns to make sense of vision. And Julian Thompson, no fair, you change the outcome by measuring it. Professor Farnsworth. Brilliant, Cynthia. Thank you. Yes, indeed. A pattern suggests an observation, the presence of consciousness to notice the relationship. I'm reminded of earlier discussions on whether prescient individuals need patterns to make sense of vision. Yeah. It's a bit like systems as well, isn't it? Human systems require human beings really to observe them and build them and create them and think about them. It's our way of it's our way of thinking about things as systems. But yes, patterns suggest observation, the presence of consciousness to notice the relationships, and remind of earlier discussions regarding whether present individuals need patterns to make sense of the vision. I kind of went with that one. That it always seems to me that the way Frank runs with it is, the way I describe it is, it's like lots and lots of Polaroids, like an infinite number of Polaroids, and the prescience that they seem to see any one given moment in time, and for them to get any sense of anything, they would have to run a bunch of them together, wouldn't they? But yeah, relationships. Discussions we're going to pass, individuals need patterns to make sense of visions, and I think but with the previous epigraph, hang on, was that the one? Was it I'll say a recent one actually. Hang on, that usually I always think it's the one previously. We were talking about looking at systems over time. I think, was it that one? Experience the movements and relationships of the planetary system. The primitive, the first people to express it was semi-mathematical language. Let's see, was that it? Language itself is part of the system. So the system of effect, the primitive accepted themselves as foraging and browsing animals, viewing themselves within the system. No, it wasn't that one. Let me see if I can jump back a little bit further. Oh, and then we have the biblical one prior to that. And it says survival. Generation may fail to notice it's the extremes of climate which set the pattern. Humans are seldom alerted to the shifting average through a great span of years. It's precisely in this alerting that humans learn how to survive on any planet. They must learn climate. But we've got something that's quite distinct and different here, isn't it? I think than anything that we've seen, I suppose, environmentally on Dune so far. And again, I think always a little bit disturbing with the kids out killing them. Always reminds me of that. Almost reminded me of that. Not from the book, really, is it? But the Starship Troopers, not that, Paul Verhoeven. Is that right? Paul Verhoeven film with all the kids out encouraging the kids to stamp on the bugs and stuff. But the kids are out killing the sand trout and capturing them and killing them. So his thoughts are that this is alien here. I thought, yes, the dissolution of his Duke's wife. These were a new breed, quick to seek profit. Right, that's where we got to before I got me scare. Pardon me. Now back to the tree. Oh, the tree will be important in a wee bit, I suppose. We'll have another wee, we're going to meet somebody. We'll have a chat about their name. So again, he focused on the silly willow. It came to Halleck then that the storm winds of his new reality might destroy these smugglers and all of their friends. It might destroy Stilgar with his fragile neutrality and take with him all of the tribes who remained loyal to Alia. They'd all become colonial peoples. Halleck had seen it before, knowing the bitter taste of it on his own homeworld. I've gone with GD Prime there. I'm not 100% sure if GD Prime is Gurney's homeworld or not. I don't think it's ever made implicit. I know he's been a slave of on GD Prime. I think it's likely that that's where he's from. Best guess anyway. Where are we? So they'd all become colonial peoples. Halleck had seen it before, knowing the bitter taste of it on his own homeworld. He saw it clearly, recalling the mannerisms of the city. Now, this is where I've got a bit of a problem, folks. If anybody's got a copy of the book here, I've got a full stop here. Now, I'll just read this to you carefully. I don't think it should be here at all. Let's see. So Halleck had seen it before. This is where I'm going from. Let me just find it here. I've put a big circle around it. Right. Halleck had seen it before, knowing the bitter taste of it on his own homeworld. Full stop. He saw it clearly, comma, recalling the mannerisms of the city. Now I've got a full stop after the word city there. I've got Fremen capitalized after it, but that should be capitalized. But I don't think that full stop should be there at all. I think he saw it clearly, comma, recalling the mannerisms of the city Fremen, the pattern of the suburbs, and the unmistakable ways of the rural Sietch, which rubbed off even on the smugglers' hideaway. So, I don't know. In fact, let me see. Sorry, typos. It came. Let me see. Typos. Yeah, that's what the text says. It came to Halleck then that the storm winds of this new reality might shred these smugglers and all of their friends. Right? Oh, yeah. No. Let's see. Storm winds of his new reality might shred. I'm going. Okay. Right. Number 9. Oh, that's a big paragraph. Where are we? Language. Sorry, Julian was saying language itself. Sorry, I missed Julian's comment there. The language itself is part of the system it described. Its written form carried the shape of what it described. This is similar to what essayists say about Joyce's language in our examination. Examination, I take it. Or is that examination? Is that one of Joyce's books? I had to read Joyce for, oh goodness, when I was doing my Irish studies degree years and years ago. I did not like him. And I've never ventured near him again, I suppose. So right, here we go. Let me see. It seemed to Halleck then. Right, hang on. It came to Halleck then that the storm winds of this new reality might shred those smugglers. I've got destroy. Oddly enough, I got destroy again. Might destroy underneath it. It might. So that's shred. Yeah, that kind of makes. It's always, writers tend not to, unless you're really going for emphasis, tend not to like dropping the same word a couple of times. So it was new reality might shred. Okay. I've got destroy in my copy there. Shred. Thank you, Cynthia. These smugglers and all of their friends. And then it might destroy Stilgar with this fragile neutrality and take him with all of the tribes who remain loyal to Alia. Okay, then we've got, this is the wee bit I'm not too sure of. They'd all become colonial peoples. Halleck had seen it before, comma, knowing the bitter taste of it on his own homeworld. He saw it clearly, comma, recalling the mannerisms of the city, full stop. I'm just wondering, is that full stop there? Let's see. Sorry, came to Halleck. Yeah, that's okay. I got that, Cynthia. Typos with the came to Halleck. Yes, my text has comma, recalling the mannerisms of the city Fremen. Yeah, that totally makes more sense. On the city Fremen. So I've got a superfluous. I've got that. Shouldn't be there. Someone's popped in a full stop again. That's superfluous. Okay. Thank you very much. I just put a wee question mark next to it. That should be the city Fremen. Yes, indeed. Town mouse and country mouse was what I was thinking. Right, goodbye, you. Okay, I'm going to read that again. Thank you very much, Cynthia. That was the one. That little bit of punctuation there didn't make sense at all. I'll put in all sorts of little squiggles here, question marks. I'll just read that again, folks, then. Thank you very much, Cynthia. That'll make much more sense. So they had all become colonial peoples. Halleck had seen it before, knowing the bitter taste of it on his own homeworld. He saw it clearly, recalling the mannerisms of the city Fremen, the pattern of the suburbs, and the unmistakable ways of the rural Sietch, which rubbed off even on the smugglers' hideaway. The rural districts were colonies of the urban centres. They learned how to wear a padded yoke, led into it by their greed, if not their superstition. Sorry, superstitions is that. Let me see. Blah, 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 blah. Superstitions, plural. Yeah. Oh, I just ran out of space by the looks of it. Superstitions. Even here, especially here, the people had the attitude of a subject population, not the attitude of free men. They were defensive, concealing, evasive. Any manifestation of authority was subject to resentment. Any authority, the regencies, Stilgar's, their own council. I'm going to get Gurney's thoughts here. I can't trust them, Halleck thought. He could only use them and nurture their distrust of others. It was sad. Gone was the old give and take of free men. The old ways had been reduced to ritual words, their origins lost to memory. Again, ritual, myths, stories, superstition. This is all the stuff that we're going to be reading to tomorrow night from Lord Raglan's The Hero, which I'm looking forward to. Now, just running back into that again, this is all about as he focused on this silly willow tree, this thing that's alien to this world. The storm winds of his new reality might shred these smugglers with all of their friends. And it's this new reality that he sees here. But they're all, this environmental damage is bringing up in his mind, I think. This change, it'll destroy these smugglers. And I think we're seeing, I suppose, the killing of the sand trout en masse, aren't we? This is not a kind of normal migration for them. The water going back, all of it, it's greatly going to infect I suppose how was it put there? The garden hopeful planning, if you like, of the siege. This change is going to affect everything. It's going to affect the smugglers. It's going to affect Stilgar and his neutrality. It's going to take all the tribes with him. It's going to remain loyal to Alia. It's going to affect her. And he goes that they're basically, he runs with the idea that they've all become colonial peoples here. So Halleck had seen it before, knowing the bitter taste of it on his own homeworld, blah, 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 blah. So he saw it, recalling the mannerisms of the city Fremen, clearly. So he's seen this about from the pattern of the suburbs. And again, we had those kind of Fremen of suburbia all the way back at the start in Dune Messiah. And the unmistakable ways of the rural siege, which rubbed off even on the smugglers' hideaway. The rural districts were colonies of the urban centres. They learned how to wear a padded yoke, led into it by their greed, if not their superstitions. Even here, especially here, the people had the attitude of a subject population, not the attitude of free men. They were defensive, concealing, evasive. Any manifestation of authority was subject to resentment. Any authority, regencies, Stilgar, their own council. So they're colonial peoples, they're colonizers of this world, all of them, I think. And it's interesting because there don't seem to be any kind of human type beings here on Arrakis before these people get to it. But obviously the Fremen have arrived on it, the Imperium have arrived on it, etc., etc. Yeah. This new reality, and again the environmental change, all how it's affected these different people. Emily says, I suppose is interesting. How would we put it? How to wear a padded joke led into it by their greed, not their superstitions. Even here, especially here, the people have the attitude of a subject population, not the attitude of free men. They were defensive, concealing, evasive. Any manifestation of authority is subject to resentment. Only authority, the Regency still guards and their own council. That's Northern Ireland in a nutshell during the Troubles for you, including the greed and the superstition. The attitude of the population towards authority here is pretty poor, I think, in general. My attitude towards authority is almost, it's not good. Not that I've ever been subject to anything, I suppose, like that. But colonization, etc., etc. I suppose Northern Ireland is really the British Empire's first kind of dry run, if you like, at that kind of imperial expansion and colonization. That would be the plantations of Ulster. Once they, okay, we've got it sorted out here, off we go and try it everywhere else. Pardon me. So yes, indeed, colonial powers and so on. Little comment here about that kind of thing, and the fact that they've become colonial peoples. I think what does that draw out of Gurney? It draws out of him these thoughts. I can't trust them. And again, in contrast, we're going to see a slight contrast to the peoples that came before, really, to Esmer Tuek, basically, who this Sietch is named after, that he would have trusted Tuek. And I suppose that the individual we're about to meet, he would have a very, very different reaction to him, Carlos, it brings up the question of who brought the worms to Arrakis. It's one of the great mysteries of Dune, isn't it? I think, have we talked about the connection, the gully foil connection? I don't know. I think there's some sort of science fiction thing there about the worms on Arrakis. And I'd like to investigate more, but there is a connection between the worms of Arrakis and Gully Foyle and the Stars My Destination, stroke Tiger, whatever you want to call it. At the end of that book, he ends up there, and there's a worm gulping for air on the beach. There you go. But who brought the worms to Arrakis? And again, I don't know what the Brian Herbert, Kevin J. Anderson machine have done. But I always enjoyed wondering about this, but I'm pretty certain that the worms, based on what we know from the books, are, as we pointed out, they're an animal-plant hybrid, and therefore they've been created in a lab. And my guess is that they come from Earth, and that they were created in a lab on Earth. Who brought them here? As a goodness knows, unless it's something to do with the my favorite mystery in all of Dune is the very last thing that we hear in the first book, is that all of this is part of an even bigger plan of which the Bene Gesserit are completely unaware. It could be part of something much, much bigger in Frank's mind anyway, and something that had perhaps much more longevity than even the things like the Bene Gesserit breeding program. Things like that have had. Okay, hang on, that's a problem, Bojack. Right, let me see. Brings up the question of who, but yeah, it's a good question. Who brought them, Carlos? But I always think that the answer is that I don't know, but they came from Earth. But I have a funny feeling that I think that there is an odd little sci-fi nod from Frank in some ways to the worm, maybe Arrakis, I don't know. But there's definitely something of interest in Tiger, The Star's My Destination, in relation to worms and Arrakis, and it's published years before Dune. And whenever I first read it, my jaw hit the floor. Bojack says, my book says I can trust them. I've got can't. Can anyone else chime in on that one? Pardon me, because it's one or the other, isn't it? Let's see. Bear with me a sec. I'll have a look at my electronic copy. Come on, go to do. I don't want your AI. I don't want your help. Go away. Right. Okay. Right. Who am I looking for here? Melodies will do. There we go. I've got I can't trust them with a can't as in the negative. In the electronic one. Bojack. It's he can't trust them. So they send Carlos worms as pattern makers, but put them on a planet, see what patterns systems emerge. And Julian saying Gurney has always had his ear to the ground of smuggler culture, a culture which is not exclusively Fremen. So they say my Berkeley text has I can't trust them. Interesting difference. Well, it's a bad one, isn't it, in terms of meaning? But yeah, I've got a double. I've got can'ts all the way. Cannot as the negative. And if he could trust them, I think he could. It says he could only use the nurture their distrust of others. I would say that's not trusting. It was sad. Gone was the old give and take of free men. The old ways have been reduced to ritual words. Their origins lost to memory. Alia had done her work well, punishing opposition and rewarding assistance, shifting the imperial forces in random fashion, concealing the major elements of her imperial power. The spies! Gods below! The spies she must have. Halleck could almost see the deadly rhythm of movement and counter-movement by which Alia hoped to keep her position off balance. Let me get his thoughts here. If the Fremen remain dormant, she'll win, he thought. Dormant's a good word, basically, from French, and it basically means you're sleeping. They remain sleepy, that she'll win. Now, we got the door sealed behind him crackled as it opened. A Sietch attendant named Melodies emerged. He was a short man with a gourd-like body which dwindled into spindly legs whose ugliness was only accented by a stillsuit. Okay. Interesting that it has a gourd-like body, isn't it? You have been accepted, Melodies said. And Halleck heard the sly dissimulation in the man's voice. What that voice revealed told Halleck there was sanctuary here for only a little time. Just until I can steal one of your thopters, he thought. My gratitude to your counsel, he said, and he thought of Esmar Tuek, for whom the Sietch had been named. Esmar, long dead of someone's treachery, would have slit the throat of this Melodies on sight. Melodies is an interesting name. I think there's a city called Melodies in Portugal. But in relation to what we're talking about, and where's Frank get his names, etc., all of this kind of thing, there is a little bit of a link, I think, here to the tree and the trees that we have within this chapter that Gurney views as, we're similar, we're the same, both of us are alien here in relation to his new reality. So Melodies is another name for the Meliads, or the Melii, or the Meliades, if you want, take your pick, which are nymphs of particularly the ash tree. Melodies and Meliades are generally nymphs. The name pertains to nymphs who generally protect trees. Basically, we've got different other types of nymphs associated with types of trees in Greek mythology and so on and so forth. We've got dryads and things like that. I think dryads are associated with oak trees. See. wood nymphs, all that kind of stuff, oceanids, and there's all sorts. All sorts, that's a bit. Where are we? Dryad is an oak tree nymph, yeah. Oh, there we go, tree nymphs. Let's pink nymphs. What else have we got? That's the one we're talking about. Nymphs are divided into various broad subgroups based on their habitat, such as the Melii, which is the one we were talking about. The Melodies is another name for them, are the ash tree nymphs. We've got the dryads or the oak tree nymphs. Also, we've got the Alcids, which are the nymphs of groves, the Naiads, which are springs, Nereids, which are sea nymphs, Oceanids are ocean nymphs, and the Oreads are mountain nymphs. Who else have we got? There's also the Hesperides, which are the nymphs of the evening, if you like. They're famous apples. The Hyades, the rain nymphs, and the Pleiades, common companions of Artemis. All sorts of nymphs there. Yeah, I do like Wikipedia's wee Greek mythology stuff. There's often some good art associated with them as well, isn't there? Oh, here, I suppose. Let me look them up. They're here in front of me. Right, there we are. Let me see. So the Melii, also called the Meliads, Latinized, Romanized, sorry, as the Melii or the Meliades, usually considered to be nymphs of the ash tree whose name they shared. There's also Epimelodies, by the way, who are nymphs who protect herds, which is the same as the spelling of the character in the book here, with the word EPI as a prefix to it. Epimelodies. Let's see, what have we got here? Mythology, according to Hesiod, the Melii, probably meaning all tree nymphs, were born from the drops of blood that fell on Gaia when Kronos castrated Uranus. In Hesiod's works and days, the ash trees, perhaps meaning the Melian nymphs, are said to have been the progenitors of the generation of men belonging to Hesiod's Bronze Age. Melii were nurses of the infant Zeus in the Cretan Dictae Mountains, according to 3rd century BC poet Callimachus. Him to Zeus, where they fed him on the milk of the goat Almathea and honey. Callimachus appears to make Theban nymph Melia, who was by Apollo the mother of Tenerus and Ismenus, one of the earthborn Melii. Elsewhere, however, this Melia is an Oceanid, one of the many daughters of Oceanus and Tethys. Mythographer Apollodorus wrote that Centaur follows his parents were Silenus and one of the Melii, thus differentiating him genealogically from the other centaurs. So there we go. So just in relation to nymphs and the trees and so on and so forth, and the use of the silly tree, the willow tree here. Oh, I was did a wee thing here, just to show you. I don't know if you can see this. Oh, let's see, what side are we on? There we go. Ogam, which is the Irish written script, ancient Irish. Up on the top right there, you'll see seal is the Ogam word for willow, and it's how you draw it. It looks like the tree, doesn't it? I found that one, Rus, an Ogam, which is Rus, is red. Because my name means red. So there you go, which is cool. So how do we look those at Ogam alphabets there today? That's part of, there are tree alphabets, if you like, where characters represent different types of trees. Ogam's meant to be one, and I've got some stuff to read about that by Robert Graves, which I haven't got round to yet. I'm absolutely chomping at the bit to read that. It looks absolutely fascinating. There we go. Let's see, just catching up your comments there. Gurney has always had his ear to the ground. Smuggler culture which is not exclusively Fremen. Yes. My Berkeley text says, I can't trust him. Interesting difference. Bojack Harkness says, cat makes more sense. However, my copy is a Berkeley first edition, 76 first print. The typo is interesting. I'm fascinated by all the mistakes in these books at the minute. They're very much a curious thing. Curiouser and curiouser. Typo is interesting. So Bojack, my version is 1977 9th printing, so later than your copy. I appreciate that. I was curious into it, yeah. And again, I'm on these, but as I said, the sets of books that I have actually have all the same mistakes. usually. Except, well, I'm not too sure about the new ones. But whenever it comes to God Emperor, I think, folks, what I'll do is I'll put my different copies on the table and let you pick, I suppose, maybe which one. I'd say that might be better to go with a more modern one, which I think I picked up a copy of, didn't I? I believe. Hmm. So, and I get it's a very interesting little chapter. We see this kind of almost what appears to be. You kind of wonder how the and again, I haven't read ahead there, so I'm going to do the notes for tomorrow's episode tomorrow during the day when I've got a wee bit of time. Only 4 pages, it won't take me long. So we'll be back on with this tomorrow night, folks, for the next chapter, and we're going to do a wee bit of reading. So I've split my lip, and I've had a bit of a funny tummy, which is why I'm not doing it tonight, but why we're going to do an extra program tomorrow and spare my throat a little bit. But I just thought that was kind of interesting in relation to Melody's name. They're off, as we know long by now that names are all sorts of things have meaning within this. Or Frank doesn't pick words out or character names for willy nilly, shall we say. He usually has a reason for it. There's usually meaning within it, yeah, if you see what I mean. But what we've got here is something that perhaps might seem almost a boon for Tuek Sietch here. That all these sand tracks are just kind of piling up here because of this act of sabotage, this environmental act of sabotage, which I suppose is going to be going on planet wide with Leto, I think, isn't it, if I remember correctly? And this water spilling out, this water creating these depressions that the sand trout meet, is just causing en masse their death. With the kids coming out, bobbing them, just piling up the corpses, etc. And they're going to retrieve their water, possibly the water of life, and maybe they'll capture a few live ones. But it generally seems to see that this is what they're selling, this is their trade, to me. And I think that Gurney's seeing the relationships happening here is that this new reality might destroy these smugglers and all of their friends, is that they're very quickly going to run out of something to smuggle. That this is, if you see what I mean, it's going to fundamentally affect how they live their lives, and quite possibly with the destruction of all of these stores of water. The fact that they've been living with water scarcity for a long time, and then since the advent of Muad'Dib's empire, what the heck, and the attitudes changed, And again, some interesting little comments from Frank about colonial peoples. And their, I suppose, attitudes to being a subject population, attitudes of being not the attitude of free men, defensive, concealing, evasive, etc., breeds resentment towards authority. So Northern Ireland certainly been a country under occupation at certain points. Ireland's history, as well as the history of invasions, etc. Different countries kind of know about this kind of thing. And how you get on, life's, as much as we're starting off today, that's a kind of weird saying that now our car's been stuck in a car bomb thing. In fact, my understanding is a bomb making factory, belonging to an individual, for a couple of days. But I don't know. During the troubles and things like that, here I think I was saying to Carlos chatting about something the other day. We're just totally inured to this kind of stuff. When I was younger, if I had a bit of money and was going up to Belfast to go shopping, if a bomb went off, took out all the windies, you'd come home and go back the next day for the bomb blast sales. Get cheap jeans and things like that, because they'd have little nicks in them from the glass and stuff. But subjective populations, and the rural districts have become colonies of the urban centres, I think is interesting. And the ancient world, colonies don't it's not quite the same thing, I suppose. Colonies tend to develop from cities as they reach a certain point of population. I feel let's send off a wee expedition somewhere, and they don't tend to take, it's just setting up a colony, if you see what I mean. somewhere else. They're not always necessarily on someone else's land, if you see what I mean. There's an element of exploration to that. Of course, there is, imperial colonialism and things like that we've had. In fact, most of the world, I suppose, experienced some sort of aspect of it at some part, I think. So a couple of little comments. There's an evolution. Not that's the wrong word. Sorry. There's an ecological aspect to Gurney's thinking here, but there's also he's also thinking politically here, and I suppose it's part of the same thing. The ecology of Arrakis is tied into everything, including its politics, including its black market, and the likes of the smugglers and so on. Let me catch up with your comments, folks. There we go. But that is our little short chapter. And I said a little bit of an interesting. Willow trees can be kind of associated with with evil and folklore and things like that. I like the fact, I don't know if anybody know, there was it called. They're also called sallows. Oh, where did I last hear the word sallows? It's a Hopkins poem. I'm trying to think which one it is. It's like a mean with yellow sallow. I can't remember. It's the Starlight Night, I think. Hang on. Oh dear, oh dear. My old memory. I love that poem, but I always butcher it. I always forget a couple of lines from it. It's one of my all-time favorite poems. Let me see if I can get it for it. In fact, it's probably my favorite poem, actually, I'd imagine. I like the stars. Yeah, it's oddly enough, it's a Christian poem, but not that it bothers me. Let me see, what was the bit of my thinking on? Well, it's in the sestet, isn't it? It's kind of the response to it. What's the price for all this grooviness? Hopkins is saying, where is it? He gets carried away again, doesn't it? It's his enthusiasm is incredible in this poem. By them bid them what prayer patience alms vows. Look, a May mist like on orchard boughs. Look, March bloom like on mealed with yellow sallows. Ah, dear, that's a cracking poem. Look at the stars. Look up at the skies, and look at all the fire folk sitting in the air. That, if anybody's not familiar with it, check it out. It's a masterclass in alliteration and sprung rhythm, and it's very enthusiastic. That's the last time I'd heard the word sallows. Osiers as well. There we go. Let me see. Catching up with comments. Right. Fluids. With yet another view of a smuggler outside Sietch, Stilgar's Sietch fiefdom, once iconic, seems anachronistic. Yeah, I think the sense we get from Gurney, who's, I think, with what we go with, Cynthia, especially with the epigraph, is that Gurney has learned to read. Has a sense of the relationships, of the energy, of the patterns of things. He's learned this language, this ecological language, this planet, the language of the planetologists. He's learned it, and he's reading very well here what's happening, and it will affect everything. And again, with Stilgar on the move, with his people, if the base of power, it seems interestingly enough for the Atreides remains with the Fremen on Arrakis. And always thought, as much as there's imperial forces and stuff like that, pardon me, you get the sense that the Atreides were never really able to build up their own family forces again, if you like, since the end of Dune. We don't really hear about House Atreides troops, really, do we? I think that's because they were so utterly, so thoroughly and utterly wiped out. So the balance that affects the smugglers, again, they probably operate under tolerance, etc. They did so under the Harkonnens, probably, and under Duke Leto, and under Paul. Pardon me. Oh, I really need to get new glasses. Let me see. Yeah, and I suppose, as you say, it is an outsider's view, if you like. It's one. Gurney here is kind of almost at this point where he's. I think we can almost think of him almost entirely as a neutral observer here. You know, um, and he's been in this situation before, and it's changed. These smugglers, this isn't the same as going to Tuek's people before. Trying to get help. This is different. It's a new reality. It's a new reality for himself, and that tree symbolizes that new reality because that tree is this willow tree is shredded by sand and wind, and it will die if it doesn't get water. It's doomed. Is the word there? That's, I think, important. The tree symbolizes the new reality. That tree's doomed unless it gets water. I think I'm trying to remember. It's been so long. There's Old Man Willow in Lord of the Rings. I'm trying to remember. Doesn't he? He's before the hobbits really get going, really, isn't it? He turns up. It's something. Is it Tom Bombadil saves the hobbits from Old Man Willow or something like that? I haven't read Lord of the Rings since I was in my 20s. But he's a malevolent so and so in that book. Hmm. Hmm. So the new reality for himself, I think this applies to everybody. They're doomed. Is that the new reality? We have at the beginning, I think, a little bit of foreshadowing. It says after the Fremen. And the Fremen are doomed. It's as simple as that. It'll take a while, but they're doomed. And what we're getting a description of here in some ways, I suppose, is the padded joke, how to wear it, their greed, their superstition. This is the change in the Fremen that has happened to them, and we're going to see that developed in God Emperor of Dune. That ultimately this is the process. What it does to the Fremen is it creates what we call the museum Fremen. And again, that's the sort of version of I've discussed that I see a lot of the museum Fremen, a lot of that in my own culture here. Well, I'll not call it my culture, but sorry, in one of the cultures, probably both of them, that are involved in Northern Ireland. There's a lot of that within Northern Irish society, which would be interesting to chat a wee bit about. I think when we get to it. Let's just catch up. Let's see. Julian Thompson, this job ain't so bad. Get to go home every day feeling like you did something. This is a landmine factory. Julian Thompson, what, you a vegetarian? Cosmic Faust Ellis has said, hi Doc, it's been a while. I hope you're doing well. All is good, Cosmic Faust. Thank you very much. I was wondering, is it possible for me to message you an email belonging to you? I asked because I want to try and publish a Dune paper in an academic journal. I was wondering if you would review, if you see if it's any good. Totally cool. If not, you must be. But yeah, fire away. Cosmic Faust Ellis, no problem at all. I'm going to hit my correspondence pretty hard soon. So, but yes, send it to me. Sure. The email address is sciencefictionstation@gmail.com. No problem. You'd be better publishing it on YouTube, to be honest with you. I want people to see it. Julian Thompson saying he's a merry fellow, bright blue. His jack is, and his boots are yellow. Tom Bombadil. Got you. Yes, Old Man Willow, Cynthia says, is the old forest. Thank you, Cynthia. It's been donkeys since read Lord of the Rings. Yes, Old Man Willow is the old forest just outside the Shire where Bombadil lives. Excellent. Tom Bombadil. we got for our, I suppose we kind of have our sitting room in here. We got a wee while back, and I love it. I love maps. Got a really, really long for the whole wall in there. Beautiful big kind of parchment type. I think it's made of vinyl. Uh, Map of Middle Earth. It's I don't know, but I don't know how long it is. Probably about 3 meters long, I think, and about a meter and a half wide. And it's just along the whole wall, and it's got the most gorgeous detail on it. And I've just been sitting and looking at it, and I haven't read the Lord of the Rings in a long time, but I listened to the BBC, the Brian Sibley dramatization, the 13-hour one. I would listen to it quite a lot. It's one of my help me get to sleep things. But I've been listening to it for forever. I've got it on cassette and CD. Sorry, But yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, it's a Willows, I suppose. Evil omens, that kind of thing. I think Willows are associated with Hecate. In Greek mythology, Hecate, what would she be? She's she's the same as Trivia. She's sorcery, hounds, crossroads, that kind of thing. And we've had I suppose, sorcery, magic. I mean, we've had the use of the word magic. Interestingly enough, things where water had worked its magic in this chapter. I think this chapter has, as we've got an outsider looking at this culture here, this world, which is a good, and it's an educated, well versed in the ecology of Arrakis outsider. It's our Gurney Halleck. I think this chapter, all in all, is quite ominous. I think, as it has a little bit of foreshadowing. I think ultimately of what's going to, happen with the Fremen, and we've also got this sense that the population's not happy. Defensive, concealing, evasive, any manifestation of authority would be subject to resentment, and it doesn't. As I said, the point here is it doesn't in that situation. It doesn't matter whose authority it is, whether it be Alia, the regencies, whether it be Stilgar's, whether it be their own council. It doesn't matter. Things are going to kick off. Basically, I think is the sense of it, and there's going to be a huge shift in the socio-economic, political, religious, even cultural, everything, pretty much here for the Fremen, for the Empire, all of it. Well, we all know it's big change is coming here, And I just thought very interesting with the use of the name melodies there, or melodies, take your pick. Association with nymphs, of trees, etc. We have this willow tree. As of all the things you could put there, as I said. Interesting. Well, listen, folks, there we go. It's 23:22, a nice little short chapter. I hope you can all join me tomorrow night. That'll do. I'm going to wrap up for tonight after my little heart attack. I thought I had the house all to myself. Made me jump out of the skin there, And our doorbell's broke, I think, as well. To get a new one. But there you go. I'm going to pop on tomorrow night to go on with chapter 57. In fact, because my students are going to start coming back in a couple of weeks, so I'm going to drive forward hopefully a wee bit with this week. So we're back tomorrow night. I'm probably a good bit earlier with chapter 57. Tomorrow we're definitely doing our. We're going to give you because it's a very short chapter. We're going to go through this as well. We have a few other things to read for you as well, actually. Oddly enough, I managed to pick up a few extras. So we've got some bonus material for you tomorrow night, and another little short chapter which we're going to jump in to see how this is starting to affect Ali and the Baron, I believe. Let me see, just from having a quick nosy here. Just 4 pages for our next chapter. And yeah, I must in order to I must try and get this fixed, this book, or else I'm going to have to try and pick up another copy, because I'm kind of wanting to read stuff from this, and it is just if I don't hold it like this, the whole thing's just going to fall to bits. And I have it taped up already, if you can see, but it's just not. It's one of those old coloured paper books on the edge. But yeah, I'll possibly see if I can get another copy of Where There Is Life to make it a wee bit easier to refer to, because that's just falling to bits. Project says, I'll have to work tomorrow night, but I'll catch up. Take care, all. So this is thanks, Doc, and all. I won't be able to make it tomorrow night session. I'm sorry to hear that, folks. I'll miss you as always, but we'll pop on anyway. It'll be a wee short thing. As I said, it's just going to be a wee bit of extra reading, so you can always catch up on the rerun. You know. Julian Thompson said, thanks, Doc. Bye all. Bye that kaifa. Well, thank you very much, folks. I will say good night. And also I'll be back on tomorrow night, Friday, probably about 9 o'clock, maybe 8. I don't know. We'll see. We'll go with 9. I'll hopefully put up a wee title card thing and let you know a wee bit earlier on in the day. And we'll get through another wee this short chapter as we pile on. It looks like I'm going to need another notebook towards the end. And I think we're also going to, we'll have to consider that we have a little bit of a celebration to have at the end of the year, June-wise, with the 60th, I think, isn't it, anniversary of the publication of Dune in novel form in December. So there we go. It's going to be an interesting year. Anyway, folks, take it easy. I'll see you tomorrow night if you're about, because I've got a bit of free time. And otherwise, look after yourselves. Be safe. Take care. And we'll see you real soon. Thanks very much. All the best. Bye-bye.